Now playing the Hook and Bridge podcast.
I fucking love Kesha. I'm telling you, I'm the worst person to have a podcast. I can barely speak.
Oh my god, I love this!
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hook and Bridge podcast. I am your host, Harley, joined today by my co-host and little sister, Taylor.
Hello.
And today we have a super special guest coming off of a new single, I Don't Know, that's out right now. The new EP releasing in early of 2025, right? Revolution. Yeah. You might know her from her song Survivor or comics. Please welcome McKenna Michels to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So how are things going for you?
You know, mental health recently has been a thing. I know I'm not the only person struggling with that, but in terms of my career, it's good. You know? I like to keep it real with all of that. It's one of the biggest things I like to talk about is just saying I'm not okay when I'm not okay, you know?
Yeah.
That's good.
We love that.
Yeah.
I think people should be more open about that.
I agree with you because sometimes it's hard to know and then you So
we're really big advocates for like mental health stuff here. We've talked a lot about it over the years. TX2 came on the show. I think that was our first year. I think it was. Yeah, it was our first Christmas.
Probably.
But he speaks a lot on behalf of mental health. And he came on the show and kind of talked about his struggles with bullying and stuff growing up and his traumas and really paved the way for his career as far as being a major advocate for mental health in general. So definitely huge part of our image and social calling here. So yeah, absolutely. Mental health is huge. And I know your music is filled with mental health references and kind of your struggles and your journey. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, or are you comfortable?
Yeah, of course. So there's three major things that I talk about on my platform and as a part of my music. The first is being a bisexual woman, which is fun and also sometimes challenging because bisexuality isn't always accepted as a valid part of the queer community. So that can be a little tricky. Some people just don't believe it's real. But as a bisexual, I can tell you that it is 100% real. And then the second thing is autism. I'm an autistic individual. And a lot of my music recently, especially, has stemmed from those experiences and learning to unmask, especially. I'm a very highly masking autistic individual. And that causes a lot of anxiety and pressure on myself and burnout frequently. And especially for people around me, I've had very close friends be like, I watch you change who you are depending on who you're talking to, and it's unconscious and it's exhausting. So that's something that I talk about very openly and write songs about the masking process, what it feels like to struggle sometimes to be in society, etc. And the third thing that I talk about very openly is childhood abuse. I was taken away from my mom when I was 15. And we're on great terms now. We have a relationship again, but it took us 10 years of not talking to get to that point, and a lot of therapy and healing on my end and on her end as well to change patterns in our own lives to be able to have a healthy adult relationship together, which I know I'm very fortunate for. And part of the reason I talk about it so openly is that not everyone gets the chance to have that reconciliation, and it's not possible for a lot of people because the person who hurt them isn't willing to put in the work like my mom did, you know? But also the pain and self realization that comes through healing of finding out things about myself that I wasn't either allowed to, or because of the emotional state of my childhood home, wasn't able to explore about myself. And getting to do that through music. So I wrote a song about the Flash. That was one of those things where it was just honing in on something that I loved, and putting it into words for kind of the first time in a way that I felt represented me, which is what I do with all of my music. So 3 major things that I talk about very openly.
So about your childhood trauma with your mom, I know you said you were taken away at a young age. Do you mind diving deeper into that? Was it something that was more of a personal choice, like you left, or was it state came in and removed you from the situation?
Yeah, so CPS got involved. I was in the middle of my sophomore year of high school. And my dad ended up coming in and basically we were in his custody, but still in the same city, while waiting for all of the court proceedings to go down and be finalized. And so for about 3 months, so that we could finish out my sophomore year, we were living in a hotel that was near my high school, and going through a lot at that time, and then ended up moving to Texas, which is where I stayed, but finished high school in Dallas with my dad and my stepmom there. And so that was a very big transitional time in my life. There were a lot of changes, a lot of confusion, a lot of course, hurt and pain. And I can't imagine what both of my parents went through during that time, because it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with, I can imagine. Especially my dad, who was, he had just finished his residency and his fellowship. He had started medical school when I was about 4. And so he was just coming off of that. And it's like,
oh, wow.
Okay, now you have 3 kids immediately that you need to basically like solo take care of at this moment. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Was your dad kind of like a rock in that situation? Did he inspire any of your music?
I think it was complicated, because I, as a kid, had a really strained relationship with my dad, and my parents ended up getting divorced when I was 12, turning 13. So for all of that time in my childhood, I was never really close to him. So I think what was the biggest thing for me was finding a way to build a trusting relationship that was meaningful with him for the first time. And kind of learning to let my guard down. So I say, I wouldn't say like he was my rock in that perspective, not because of anything that he was doing wrong, but because of the amount that I had to overcome to be able to let him be that.
Sure.
And I don't think I really got there until college. So, but he tried. He definitely tried.
Speaking of college, you finished out a business degree, correct?
I did. Yeah, I did.
How was it kind of dealing with college as well as like your plans for being a musician? Because it all kind of happened simultaneously, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was actually just talking about this the other day to my mom, actually. So, wow. I initially went into college with the plan to be an opera singer. I had studied opera and done private lessons in high school. They had a program through my high school in Dallas that I was lucky to be a part of, where they offered voice lessons for the state choir competitions. And instead of focusing on state, my voice teacher and I decided to focus independently on doing operatic arias and all of those things, art songs, etc. And that ended up leading me to the Kennedy Center when I was 17. I had just graduated high school and I was going pre-college, got to do a program with the Washington National Opera there, which was an amazing opportunity. Around that time, I was also, little known fact about me for people that have never met me in person, I'm really tall. So I guess people think I'm shorter or something. I guess I photograph shorter than I am. I am 6 feet tall. Ended up
Wow.
getting asked to be on the rowing team, like crew, like boys in the boat, 8-people boats, my senior year of high school. And at that same time that I started, literally 6 weeks after I started, the recruiter from the University of Texas and head coach Dave O'Neill came to a practice and was there to recruit another girl. But he saw me and he's like, do you want to come on a visit? Because I'm really tall. And so I ended up signing a rowing contract to go row in Division I rowing at the University of Texas. But one of the things that came with that, it was a great opportunity. It taught me so much about resilience and working on a team and dealing with personal hardships. I was injured the entire time I was there. It was so fun. I say sarcastically. But the team itself was a really excellent experience. And but with that, I was planning initially to double major in business and opera. The music school's schedule didn't work with the rowing schedule, and because they were basically the reason I was there and the reason I got into school, I had to prioritize the rowing team, which was a great thing. And they are now, I think, currently #1 in the nation 3 times in a row. Which is amazing.
Wow.
When I was there, we got to second, which was awesome. I never raced once because I was injured the whole time. But it was amazing to see Olympian level athletes just around all the time and watch them be fantastic. So with all of that, in my second injury, I tore some discs in my lower back. And my first injury I went in, it was my left shoulder. And I literally went in the first week of my freshman year with that injury from a rowing camp I had done prior to that. And at that time, hadn't considered writing music yet, but was missing music. And so I was still practicing my opera. In the dorms, they had a piano that I would go play all the time. And then by the time my second injury happened, I was kind of just in this, I felt so isolated and alone, and I started writing. And this was fall 2019, maybe winter around there. And then in the spring, when it was looking like I was just really not doing well, we had this graduation thing that they do yearly for the seniors on the rowing team, where they go and celebrate them. Their parents come. It's like a brunch that they would do on Lady Bird Lake in Austin.
Oh, okay.
There was this place that's not there anymore. It was called Abel's on the Lake, and it was a yearly tradition for the rowing team to go there and do this celebration. Right next to it is this Austin staple coffee house. It is one of the coolest locations in Austin. It's this big deck, and then they also have where they, what do you call it, like roast the coffee. They roast it on site.
Yeah.
This big bakery, and then this coffee house that you can go sit in. And I had seen 2 weeks prior, maybe a musician playing there. So while I was at this event, I decided afterwards, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a shot on this. I'm going to go ask them if I can play there. And this is legitimately what was going on in my mind. I was so anxious. I was so down. I was physically in pain from my injury. And I walked in there with this ultimatum in my mind. I'm like, if they tell me they want me to play here, I will pursue a career in music. I will songwrite, and I will try to be a musician. If I don't, I'm going to give up. I'm going to put music away forever, and I'm going to go be a lawyer. So I walked in there. I met with the owner. I walked in. I was like, what do I need to do to play? They introduced me to her, and she said, send me some demos, and we'll see what we can do. I sent her these demos, and a few hours later, she responds and says, can you play tomorrow? We have an opening. And it started my whole career. Legitimately, just that experience.
Yeah.
So that was 2019.
I was not initially going to pursue music other than opera, which became not a reality. And then all of these things, all of these experiences and this path just led me there.
Right.
So, yeah.
So that was 2019. Would that have been like your first like true live performance, other than like the Kennedy Center and performing with other, but like solo? That was your first like, all right, I'm doing this.
It was Mother's Day 2019. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
May, I think it was May 19th or something like that. Oh my God, I remember it because I had prepared an hour set list of a couple covers. I only had written 2 songs at that time. So I played both of those songs. And what ended up happening is it kind of created this style for me that I did for a long time before I primarily only sing my music, which I'm very fortunate to do in Austin, especially. Austin is very competitive. If for anyone that knows music, it's for a singer-songwriter, it's hard to do gigs where you don't also have to play covers. So I'm very lucky that I'm at a stage in my career now. But previously, what I would do is I would just show up and I would ask the audience what they want to hear. I'd pull up the chords on guitar tabs and I'd just play it. And that's kind of what I did for a few years. And I do that still sometimes. There's a light show at Mozart's that they do every Christmas season. I'm actually performing there tomorrow. I don't know when this will be released, but tomorrow.
Next week, technically, but so it just happened.
And I still do it for them, but that they're the only place I'll do it to, and it's because I have this unconditional love for them for single-handedly giving me the courage to pursue my music career.
Right. That's awesome. So I don't want to be alone, but I'm kind of used to it. Would that song be inspired by your mother?
There's a lot of things that went into that song. I wrote that in the middle of the lockdown. There was this time during COVID, I was going from, in 2019, I was doing 12 shows a week while doing school and doing rowing and just trying to make it work and get exposure and be out there. And then the lockdown happened. And I gave up for a while, and I had just started my career, but I, because of that, was feeling so empty. It went from everything was doing everything all at once. I had school, I had all of these things happening, to suddenly there was just nothing going on. So for about 6 months, I didn't touch music, other than I actually started at that time doing Zoom piano lessons for kids. I was teaching them piano on Zoom, and that was all I was doing musically. I wasn't writing, I wasn't singing, I was not really practicing at all. I wasn't in a mind space to do it. And then it was, did you ever hear about the big freeze that happened in Texas? It was like 2021, February 2021. So just like everything was still closed, and then everything was frozen. Everybody's power went out. There was, it was a nightmare in Texas. And I was very lucky. My apartment was on the same electrical grid as the hospital that was across the street. So my power never went out.
So that's nice.
But at that time, I was dating someone, and we had his entire family come over from their house because they had 2 really young kids. It's his sister and his brother-in-law's children that we just didn't want them to be unsafe in the cold. So had them come over to the apartment. And then when they left, there wasn't a way for him to get back up safely or easily. And so I was just alone for like a week and a half. And I was really feeling that isolation for the first time in the pandemic. That, as an autistic person, I value my solitude sometimes, a lot of the time. But this was one of those where, because there was no option for companionship, with the pandemic aside, just also the ice storm happening, that's when I wrote that song. So it initially stemmed from there and from that experiences, but I could see how that also could come across as a parental thing, because it probably was. I mean, I was longing for any sort of connection with people, and it just wasn't possible.
Interesting. Okay. Tell me a little bit about Survivor. I know the story's been told a lot, but I mean, it inspired such a huge portion of your life, inspired a movement. So we gotta definitely talk about like the story.
I have been avoiding this song left and right because I know I need it. Like, I had a show the other day and I had rehearsal before the show. And at rehearsal, I was like, if I sing this song in rehearsal right now, I will break down and I will not recover and do the rest of the rehearsal. So I need to not. And then at the show, I did it, and introducing the song, I was like choking back my tears. And like, if I cry right now, I can't sing. So I need to not cry. But that's just been my attitude towards this song recently, and so I'm going to talk about it, and I might cry.
That's okay.
Tears are welcome. We cry every week.
Survivor is a critical song for me and more applicable than ever in my world. And I'll tell you, I have not talked about this yet. So, I mean, I've talked about Survivor, but I've not talked about what I'm going to talk about right now yet. I back in at the end of October, early November, mentally was going through a really difficult time that was very low for me. And not to be dramatic, but then when the election results came out, which I don't care who people voted for, I mostly just am afraid as a woman living in Texas.
Oh yeah,
I'll say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's you never know what people that are extreme are going to do. But already was having a hard time. Already felt the weight of the world on top of me. And then when that happened, it was kind of just this snapping point for my brain. And I was having some thoughts of no longer wanting to be here anymore. And the reason I avoided Survivor is because when I wrote that song, the last time I felt that way was a few years ago. And Survivor was the song that I wrote to get me out of it and remind me that there is a reason to keep going. And even if it's not visibly apparent or it's cloudy at the moment, that there are things to live for. And so Survivor saved my life once. Sorry. Dang.
That's okay.
And continues to do so, because through that song, I've had fans come up to me and tell me their own stories of their struggles, their hardships, and things that they've been through that give me a reason to stay here. And the reason that I keep writing and keep performing is because of those people and them sharing their own moments of darkness that they say that song pulled them through. Survivor became about much more than me, not just my fans, but also about my friend Michelle. And when I initially wrote that song back in 2021, I showed it to my manager a few months later after we had already released my first EP, Renaissance. And he goes, "You need to meet Michelle. You need to meet her, because she'll change your perspective on life and everything that you have going on and all the pain that you feel. Michelle will change your perspective on that." And I was like, sure. Okay. Michelle is a real person. Also the main character in my comic book, Survivor, of the same name. She is about 4'11". She is the tiniest person you'll ever see. She's like super, super skinny, tiny girl. Very, like, she looks 12. Like she could make so much money as a child actor permanently because she looks like a child. Michelle is also the strongest person I've ever met. She had a stroke at 5 weeks old. She has cerebral palsy and epilepsy as a result of that stroke, but she's never let it victimize her, ever. She is always there for her friends. She's always there for her family. She brings a positive light to every single person that she meets, all while dealing with this physical trauma and these constant medical emergencies. Even to this day, there's things that she's constantly in the hospital for. And watching her go through that and still be here. And she's an artist as well. She draws, and that's what inspired the Survivor comic book. She draws and draws these beautiful pictures and uses that as her release to get that negative energy out of her. He was right. Yeah, it changed my perspective on everything. And together, it's a fictionalized version of reality. But she is a real person. Her mom in the book is based off of her real mom. Her friend Adrian is her best friend in real life and is also her best friend in the comic book. There are other fictional characters surrounding them, but the situations and ways that they deal with those situations are real. And they were a huge part of writing this book as well, and making the dialogue feel authentic and like they were actually the ones talking. So when you're reading it on the page, those words are coming from Becky, Michelle's mom, Adrian, her best friend, and Michelle herself, talking as if they would in a hospital. And through that, this song that saved my own life and has impacted people beyond me became so much more. It led me to be able to support the National Epilepsy Foundation through the comic book, the In Your Shoes Foundation, which helps children with congenital heart defects. CASA is partnered with the next book that is coming out with this EP called Monster. And for people that don't know, they help children in foster care and who have been in abusive situations. And getting to work with these organizations has given me a purpose and a reason to keep on going, keep on moving along, which is the pre-chorus to Survivor.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's a great song. It's so powerful.
Thank you so much.
It's encouraged so many people. So truly an incredible piece of art. On
Sorry
a
for getting
happier...
No, you're okay.
Fine.
Tears are welcome.
On a happier note, though, with the comic book, and I know you do some cosplay as well. Is there like an anime interest in your life? Is that kind of how it got started, or?
Oh, is there any anime interest in my life? So I've been a cosplayer for 11 years now. I started watching anime when I was 9. I think my first one, I would stay up and sneak up watching Naruto on Adult Swim on the back in the day. Stay up and no one knew I watched it because they probably wouldn't let me if I asked. But that then led to, in middle school, I was huge on Inuyasha. What's the one? School Rumble. I used to watch that all the time. I never got into Dragon Ball other than just what was on. But mostly those 3 to start out with. And then, oh boy, I discovered Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Death Note, all the OGs, and my life was changed. And embarrassed to say, my first cosplay was America from Hitalia, if anyone remembers Hitalia at all. As a 13-year-old, I did not understand that was problematic, but here we are. So, yeah, and then I just kept going with it. I remained passionate about it. I primarily now do video game cosplays. My main 2 that I focus on are Final Fantasy VII. I cosplay Aerith. Love my girl Aerith. It's a tragedy, and I'm not going to say anything more than that, but the game's been out for over 25 years, so if you don't know, then you're wrong. But also Zelda was the first game I fell in love with as a kid, and so the 2 that I primarily cosplay are Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess Zelda. But of course, working on more in the future. My next one, I plan to do Skull Kid from Majora's Mask, and I'm very excited about that.
All right. Have you played Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom? I
really liked Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom, I'm going to get shade for this, but I felt like it was just a really expensive DLC. And I did not like the building mechanics very much, but I really liked Zelda's arc in that game, and of course Ganondorf. slayed. But other than that, I was kind of disappointed, and I hope for the movie especially that they move on from Breath of the Wild and do something else.
Right. My wife has played Breath of the Wild at least 5 times all the way through.
Oh, it's really great.
But I got her Tears of the Kingdom, and she has not made it past, I think, like 45 minutes. And same thing. She was just like, it's just not for me. The building mechanic is not great. I don't really like that in a Zelda game. I want to just do the Zelda things. And then we've tried to replay Ocarina of Time. It's one of those things where, like, the nostalgia of having an N64, growing up and being able to play that game, you're like, oh, I want to go back to it. But then you pull it up and you're like, I'd rather just play Breath of the Wild. It's just a better version of Zelda.
They've changed a lot. I think what I appreciate about the older Zelda games especially is like the puzzle orientedness, but it was linear. I mean, open world to an extent is great. I think that for games like Zelda, the open world confuses the fan base. And that's also why I really like Final Fantasy in general, is because it's a story-driven game, but there's linear points in this vast world that you're playing where you have to get to these points to progress. And I feel like with Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild less, but more Tears of the Kingdom, that gets so convoluted. And you're trying to figure out, where am I supposed to go? But the story's not linear, and it's hard to figure out. Like, you could literally, I mean, there's people who went to Ganondorf before uncovering so much other stuff that was going on. And it's like, there needs to be a little bit more structure to a Zelda game, because that's what the fan base is used to, and that's what they want. So.
Die-hard Pokemon fans, so linear is my language. I really enjoy a linear story.
And it works.
Open world. It's gotten out of control. It's every game has some sort of an open world mechanic, and you're like, why is Lego Star Wars open world? I don't need that. Just let me play the game.
Don't get me started on Lego Star Wars. Oh my god!
All right.
I'm very passionate about having a good storyline.
If there's no story, I just don't understand the point in playing it. Like,
depends
multiplayer, multiplayer is okay, but I could talk about video games for hours. But I have to ask, so is there a dream collaboration for you? I know you performed with Echo Smith. Is there like an artist that you're like in the works with, or like I'm assuming your management has been like, who would you like to perform alongside, or have they pitched you ideas, anything that?
Okay, I have 3 answers for this, and they're all women. My pipe dream goals, I call them pipe dream goals because for where I'm at right now. In the future, I don't know, but right now they're pipe dream goals. Florence and the Machine and Lady Gaga. Not necessarily in one song, or maybe in one song. All 3 of us together in one song. Oh my god! But I'm such a huge fan of both of them, and I feel like elements of their styles have impacted the way that I go after my career and the things that I choose to do. I've studied their stage performance a lot and have incorporated some of their things into my style, but of course have made it my own, etc. One of the things I took from Florence is I spin around on stage a lot. If you've ever seen any videos of her, she just loves to twirl, and she just looks so free, and she's beautiful. And I wanted that, so I do that too. But definitely them. And then another one that is more recent, and I don't know how we would do it, or like how I could get in touch with them, but I feel like it's possible. Maybe one day, is Chapel Roan, because I feel like I have the lower voice, she's got the higher belting range. We could harmonize some good stuff in there. We could write a song about lesbian and bisexual struggles together. So those are my dreams.
So full disclosure, so the first time I had ever heard of you was when a PR department reached out. And as soon as I listened to your music and then kind of saw your image, I was like, oh, she's like a Chapel Roan. Like, literally, that was the first thing I said. I was like, oh, she's like a new Chapel Roan. And I was
so I love getting comparisons to her. I love getting comparisons to her because I love her so much.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it makes me so angry though, and I'll give you an example of this because so I have this amazing friend. His name is Aaron Morgeson. He is a prop maker and a foam smith. He's a cosplay wizard. 2 years ago, I reached out to him to make this suit of armor for me for my upcoming EP Revolution. We did a photo shoot a year and a half ago. We did a music video that was centered around this suit of armor. Haven't released it yet. I've just been holding it. It's on my t-shirts though, so people have seen it. They know what it looks like. They know I did it already. And then as soon as we were like, okay, we're setting a date for this EP, she goes on the VMAs and wears a suit of armor.
Yeah.
No.
And I was like, no, please, no, because everyone's just gonna be like, oh, you're copying Chapel. And I'm like, no,
like it's not an original idea.
Yeah, no, you guys are different, but like your sounds are so similar.
Yeah,
and, like, your
I
image.
love her so much. Yeah. That's just been the one frustrating part. The only frustrating part is it's like her team is much faster because they can be because she's a big label artist and so it's like, dang it.
Well, and it's like the Dixie Chicks and the Wreckers. Like they both came out at the same time, but they're the Chicks now. Sorry, the Chicks and the Wreckers.
That's canceled. That's crazy.
But they came out at the same time, but the Chicks were just pushed up so much faster.
Yeah,
and the Wreckers followed that same. Like they were so similar in their art that they just always were like side by side. And when you look at songs lists, they're like right there below each other. So yeah, it's just similar art, and you guys have very similar ways of singing. You have very similar tonalities and chord choices in your songs. So total compliment, huge compliment.
I take it as one, and it gives me such hope to see her succeed because it means that what I'm doing as well is valued in the industry right now and in the public.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
So it's great to see. And I have no actual like gripe with her, but it's just sometimes the costume stuff. I'm like, how do I continue to come up with things without us doing the same thing?
You have a pretty strong shot at shooting up though, because she seems to want to get out of music in recent times. So
yeah,
somebody's got to pick up that mantle.
I think she's very open about it as well, and I think another reason she's such an inspiration is because she talks very openly about having bipolar disorder, and how that pressure of people, and there's a lot of overlap between bipolar and autism, very similar symptoms of some things that present very similarly. And so the overwhelming nature of this industry and the overstimulation that comes, and she's talked about people touching her or coming up to her in public, and those are things that as an autistic person overwhelm me as well, or would if I were dealing with it to the extent that she is dealing with it. And I love how open she has been about that and those struggles, because it's bringing a light to a side of celebrity that has never really been expressed other than through Britney Spears, and then everyone bullied her about it. But with Chapel, I think people are finally going, hey, like, this is not, she didn't choose this. Like, unlike in the 90s where people could argue, well, this is what she chose, there was no social media, etc. Chapel didn't blow herself up that fast on purpose. There were a lot of factors that coincided all at the same time that led to that. And her career growth has been astronomically fast. It has never happened in the history of music. And so I can understand why she would want to step away and take a break. And I hope that what I hope for her is that if she does that, and if that leads to my success, someone else's success in that area, that she can come back with open arms to pursue her art, and people will understand and give her grace, because she is a heck of an artist. She has style. She's been cultivating her craft for 10 years, and it shows, and she rocks the stage. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know we've tied up a lot of your time. We do have Wordle if you'd like to stick around. If not, we totally understand. But I will go ahead and pull it up. So Taylor makes these words.
Listen.
I'm
This
listening.
Wordle is not great.
Okay.
I couldn't think of a word, and it was just one of those things where I was just trying to type something, and it has to do with my interests, which worries me.
Has to do with your interests.
Yes, my musical interests. So that worries me that you guys might not get it. However,
can we get a hint about the interest it relates to?
So there is one artist that I have been obsessed with for a little too long, and I don't become obsessed with artists very often. But Sabrina Carpenter has taken over my world.
Okay.
And so this has to do with Sabrina Carpenter. And for some reason, it's one of her songs that has been stuck in my head for days now.
Juno?
Oh my gosh, she got it.
Yay! That song is so good.
Never mind, I feel better.
Yay!
I feel so much better and validated in my choice. Because as I was typing it, I'm like, neither of you are probably going to get this.
Have you watched the compilation of her doing all the different poses?
Yes! That's why it's been stuck in my head.
So funny. I love when what was the one, didn't she like fall over or something?
Yeah, she like tripped over her boot.
She's so funny. I love her.
Oh, it's so funny. I have never been more obsessed. I don't know what it is. And like I love her as an actress too, just like as a person. I'm so glad that she is now, because she's been an artist for a while now, but like recently has become like just this huge artist. Yeah. So I think that's why I'm so obsessed, because I'm like, she was my childhood and now here she is on a big stage. Anywho, yeah, congratulations. Thanks.
Yeah. Tying it back into Chapel Roan, like I think it's so cool that Sabrina has been the person that primarily has been reaching out to her, because they have the same situation but very different experiences, where Sabrina Carpenter has been in the depths of the industry mostly because of her experience with Disney. So she's seen it and been around it and has experienced this similar growth, but has better coping mechanisms from those 10 years of preparation. So I think it's really cool that she's being a girl's girl, showing up for Chapel.
100%. And we've had the talk about Chapel Roan in the sense of, I felt the same way, that it was a lot at once, that overnight she's just has become this big sensation. And that I also was feeling like, I was like, I don't know how long that's going to last, because it's a lot to deal with to be a person. And people, I don't want to say normal people, but like people who aren't in that industry and have all that attention, they don't understand that. And at the end of the day, everybody is just a person. Like, let's just treat people as people.
People, they can't understand it because, and I'm on a much smaller scale have experienced this, and can only speak to it from my own personal perspective. But people want something that gives them hope, right? And sometimes that becomes a person. And so if that hope disappoints them in a way that they weren't anticipating, they lash out. But at the same time, that hope can also fuel an intense amount of love and affection, etc., that as a normal person you don't receive on a day-to-day basis. And so for me, I experience that on tour with my fans, and I love them. They're amazing. But often what happens after tour, and I guarantee you Chapel's experienced this on a larger scale, you get all of this love, all of this attention, all of this, everything is on you all at once. You're performing, you got this adrenaline high, you have incredible musicians around you, people doing your hair, people doing your makeup, and then you go home and there's nothing.
Yeah. And it's like a crash.
It's a massive crash. And that's part of what contributed to my struggle in October. Is I got back from tour early October, end of September. And I was just in this spot of like, I feel like nothing is happening. And it's not necessarily that you want or crave the validation of people around you. It's that you're used to it for an extended period of time of people just showering you with words, gifts, affection, and everything. And it feels nice, but it also overwhelms you to the point where when you're no longer in that, you don't know what to do with yourself.
Yes, exactly.
So she's definitely experienced that far greater than I have, and in public, no less, separate from shows. And so that, I think that's why people can't understand, is because they've never had that.
Yeah.
You can experience it one-on-one with like a narcissist that love bombs you. But experiencing it to a high scale for weeks at a time, most people will never have that feeling in their life.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too that like fame gives the normal person this idea of like, oh, this person is now important and accessible, and they treat you differently, like you're a commodity to them every time you're in public. What do you mean you can't take a picture with me? Oh, now I'm going to write terrible things about you. Like, that's just the nature of this business, and it sucks.
It sucks.
I think that's what's so dangerous about the music industry, is oftentimes, not just the music industry, the celebrity industry, I would call it, influencers, etc., is that you are marketed not as a person, but as a product.
Yes.
And that product of Sabrina Carpenter, for example, is sparkles, femininity, blonde hair, big blonde hair, gorgeous, overdone makeup, and they don't see anything else.
Yeah.
They can choose to watch your interviews. They can choose to find the person behind that. But then with that, you get the parasocial relationship. So they think they actually know you, but what they're really seeing is the part of yourself that you are choosing to include in your product.
Yeah.
And that's really dangerous and scary. And what I personally try to get around by, I try to talk about who I actually am and be who I actually am at all times. And the fashion is a part of that for me. And it's not just something that I put on, and it's really hard to sometimes to stay in that, especially when having a hard time. And that's why I talk about it so openly, is because for a long time I did not. And I just put on this like, oh, look, my Instagram is all shiny and pretty, and look at these new costumes. And I'm done with that now, or trying to be done with that now, because of what I've seen it do to people that are in the industry right now, being worked to the bone and then treated like they can't have a personal life. So
100%.
Well, all of that being said, McKenna, you're incredible. The new single, I Don't Know, is out right now. We're looking forward to Revolution coming out in 2025. Renaissance is out now. Song that I really enjoyed was a song called Running that you put out. I thought that song was fantastic. Enlightenment is also out right now. Survivor is an incredible song, a meaningful piece. And yeah, is there anything that you want to promote while you're on the show still?
I am going on tour again. I just found out 2 days ago, as of recording this, that I will be opening for Spencer Sutherland in Europe and the UK.
Fantastic.
Wow.
So I'm very excited about that. I'll be joining him on his 15-show tour starting January 20th and going through February 13th. So getting done right before Valentine's Day. I haven't told my fans yet, so if they're watching this.
Yeah. This comes out next Monday.
Monday.
6 days from now. So if you're listening, get your plane tickets. Head to Europe.
Check out the tour dates.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. You're awesome. It's been so great being able to talk with you.
Yeah,
thank you
for being on the show. You're welcome back anytime you want to come on. We'd love to have you back on and talk more video games and dive deeper into some other stuff. So
have a whole 30-minute game segment.
Oh, you know what? We should play some Mario Party Jamboree.
Yeah.
Don't tease me.
I'll do it. I'm serious. I'm like grinding it nonstop.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. You have an awesome evening, and come on back anytime.
Yeah, anytime.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good one. We'll see you.
You too.
Peace.
Bye.
So we have 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. Can we do a life update? This is still rolling, right?
Buddy.
All right, everybody. I live in Virginia now.
It's official.
Virginia now.
Taylor lives here with us now.
That's why I look a wreck. I've been taking care of a baby. Someone's gotta.
Taylor lives here forever.
I'm a single mom who works 2 jobs. loves her kids and never stops.
Taylor was homeless, so Lindsay and I decided to take her in.
Take me in, yeah.
Yep.
I was in fact homeless.
They're probably out there ready. Should we pause and see if they want to come in?
Sure.
Okay. We'll pause. Okay.
Guys, I have music news.
You have music news?
Mm-hmm.
We also have music news.
Sabrina Carpenter and Barry, what's his face, broke up.
Oh shit.
He cheated on her, allegedly.
Oh.
How dare he? I don't know. It's on Instagram. It's all alleged. I didn't look into this. It was just the first thing that popped up.
Eminem's mom died.
Is he's probably fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably.
Debbie's gone.
Little Deb. No. Down Deb or down dead Deb.
But yeah, Taylor lives here now.
I do live here.
Lindsay and I took in homeless Taylor.
With a homeless biscuit. Now we've got 3 dogs and a baby. 3 dogs and a baby. That sounds like a movie.
3 men and a baby.
3 dogs and a baby. Better movie.
Anyways, yeah. That's the update. I live here.
Yep.
Lindsay's here.
Tasty Tunes.
Tasty Tunes is coming out. Oh my gosh, our own plug.
Mm-hmm. Could plug the other stuff real quick. We could call it a day.
Oh, if you like today's video, go ahead and subscribe. Hit that bell notification so you can be notified every time we post a new video. I missed something. Oh, like it too.
And then our Instagram exists.
Go follow it or go pay money to listen to us.
YouTube's going to have a bunch of new stuff on it.
For every $10 you pay towards our YouTube, I'll show you a toe. $50 you can get all 5.
I had this idea while I was...
She only has 5 and not 10.
You got that diabetes foot. Don't spit on yourself.
You're going to get us canceled.
Don't spit on yourself.
Oh my gosh.
While I was in the shower, I had an idea for the Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
For the Tasty Tunes thing,
Mm-hmm.
I'll put a weekly cooking playlist
Mm-hmm.
of songs on there that you can download and listen to.
That's fun. You should also post recipes.
Yeah,
I'll post my chocolate chip cookie recipe. It's pretty fire, if I do say so.
There we go. So sign up for the Patreon. $5 a month. Get all that good stuff. All right.
For $90, you can get all 10 toes. I'll give you a $10 discount.
It's been real, everybody. Peace.